We're now recording. Welcome everybody. Tonight's class is on Mongoose Traveller, 2nd edition. We call it Referee 102. It is primarily, tonight's class is going to be about converting an existing PDF of a classic Traveller adventure into the VTT Fantasy Grounds. I purchased this from the Drive-Thru-RPG One Bookshelf website, and we're going to go through this, and I'm going to flip back and forth. You can see it's tagged now with Far Future Enterprise, which I think is pretty neat. Converting the text and creating systems and ships and characters. And I'm just kind of freewheeling as I do this. I'm going to be going in the order that we find it in the adventure, not so much in a structured format in Fantasy Grounds. But I'm going to flip over to Fantasy Grounds. You can see I already have it up and running. It's prepped. I think I loaded the core rulebook already just so I have some reference material in Fantasy Grounds. But other than that, there's nothing else in here other than the what comes with the core rules. So everything else we're going to be creating from scratch. So some of the things we're going to be doing tonight, we're going to be going through the modules and do a builder and build an actual reference, and then exporting it. We're going to do items. We're going to be doing NPCs. We're going to be building Spacecraft. We're going to be building story. We're going to be building systems, and we're going to be building tables for sure. Beyond that, we may have time to do some spacecraft operations, which is not so much part of the adventure per se, even though that's possible. It's just kind of to tie everything together when we get going tonight. So this does assume you know how to navigate Fantasy Grounds. We do have a Referee 101 class that actually covers setting up the table and getting to this point. That's out of scope for tonight. We're not going to cover any of that for the sake of time. We're going to jump right into building a story and then nesting encounters, and we call them battles in Fantasy Grounds, but the core Fantasy Grounds is called encounters, but battles is for Traveller. We're going to build NPCs in those battles. We can make parcels by putting items in parcels, things like that. But everything fundamentally, we're going to nest into a story entry. So I'm going to jump right into it and create my first story entry, which is right here. It's blank. The core rulebook doesn't come with a story because it's not an adventure. Right? I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create... I'll start first by creating my first entry. I hit the green plus sign here, add item. And what we like to do, this is like an old coding thing, when we sort the story, I'll put this side by side, it wants to sometimes default into alphabetical order. So you'll see on adventures that you purchase in Fantasy Grounds or later and other things that we like to do this numbering system. That way it inserts in here in order. So if I do a 0.2, I want to see, will a 0.1 supersede? See how it's slotted itself in like that? So by doing it by numeric and doing at least a tenths, larger adventures, this one's 50 pages, I believe, 52 pages. Maybe I want to use hundredths. Certainly for a hardcover adventure, I might want to be, unlock it and make it like that. And I'm going to show my age a little bit. Doing these numbering things reminds me of learning to code in BASIC. I don't know if anybody was taught to do it this way in BASIC. When you do lines of code, we were using... we would leave lines available. At least, in as we've coded, so we can go back and insert in later. I don't know why it rings a bell like that for me, but it does. So, for example, we'll do the cover. I'm going to go ahead and we could put an image in here, and I don't know that we actually have a cover image. I'm about to do something. We could maybe just grab the black cover, or maybe I want to do this, and I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to grab this image. I like to use my snipping tool on Windows. And I'll grab this. And do a file save as. And I'll put this instead of on my desktop, I will do a new folder. And I'll call it A1 conversion. Or some such. And this will be the cover image. And it saves by default as PNG, and I'll save it. I'll flip back into Fantasy Grounds here. Now this cover, we want the image. I want to put it right here. We could do that by going to Image. And I want to import this in. Import files. And I go to my desktop, and I go to my A1 conversion. All right, and you see there's nothing here. That's because it defaults to JPEG. You could use either JPEG or PNG. I like using PNGs for mine. I'll hit open. Now we have the image. Right, not much here, but we can then drop it here. So now this story entry has a nested image file that I could, it's part of the adventure. I wouldn't do this if I was using the reference builder. We're going to go through that reference, the builder, here in a little bit, but I want to go through the story first. Unfortunately, unless you're a whiz at this, you can't make a reference a story entry, and technically the vanilla Fantasy Grounds, you can't make a story entry into a reference. You can, however, find an extension called, I believe it's called Reference Builder. I forget what it's. I'll have to find it for you guys. And you can make a story entry into a reference using an extension in Fantasy Grounds, but out of the box you can't. So I'm gonna sticking to the story entry because adventures are done via story mode. All right, so that's the cover. I'm gonna go ahead and then I'm gonna insert between cover. We could go 010, and I can make this credits. And this is going to be a little boring until we get really rolling on this. And I could do like this. Grab this stuff. Copy, Control C. Right click, or left click in here, then Control V, and I paste it in. And you can see the editing is a little bit off. It has the text correct, but maybe I want to clean this up a little bit. I got to bring this together. Like this, something like that. I could highlight all the text, and I can make it like Control B for bold, Control U for underline, Control I for italic. Do them again and undo all that. Maybe I want to do this in what we call. You just gotta click anywhere on the line. And we want to use a paragraph style. I can make that a heading, which I'm probably gonna leave it. I could make it some other things like a chat frame, which means that comes across the chat, but we'll use that for a later entry in the adventure. We can make it a list, and it becomes bulleted, just like we expect it. We could do a link, and I can nest a hyperlink in here. Usually we could do stuff like images. I can nest that link in there. I could do this and put it in there. Now that links to this image. For whatever reason, I don't want to do that. I can make it a table. We're going to build a table out later, but this is good. Tables are good for not text boxes, but highlighting, callaways in an adventure. And we can put it always back to body text. Now, so I'm right-clicking and doing this. It's bringing up this radial. And when I go to paragraph types, it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 options. I don't have to right-click and navigate in here. I could do Control 1, which is regular, Control 2, which is a heading, Control 3, which is a text, Control 4, which is a bullet, Control 5, which is the link, and Control 6, which is the cells. What do we call this? The tables. And then Control 1 brings me back. When I do my conversions, I'm a keyboard shortcut fanatic. I love keyboard shortcuts. So heading, I might do like, I'll put this stuff in like a 6, which is the table, but I don't want to use it as a table. I'll just bring this all together. So I put it all in one line, and then by holding Shift and clicking Enter, I can move that stuff down, and now it's in a nice, it looks a little bit better wrapped in that text like that, I think. Personal preference. I'll bring that back up. So that's an example of the credits. One way to start doing this conversion. Next up, we have a table of contents. I don't know that I would necessarily do a table of contents on a Fantasy Grounds adventure. The reason being, these page numbers don't correlate to anything once we really get going. But I'm going to bring it in anyway because that's what I made the 0.20 for. We'll call it a table of contents. All right. And rather than maybe leave these pages, I might leave the pages in. I don't know. What I would definitely do if I'm going to leave a table of contents, I'm going to just control these, some of the stuff that's in caps. I'm going to come back and I'm going to put the story entries at the beginning of it, so that way they hyperlink back to where they need to go. And we'll show that. Remind me if I don't do it immediately to come back and show you guys that. All right, and it's up to you. Yeah, I don't know. I would over time get rid of this stuff. You know, if I was doing a professional conversion, we don't need these numbers. But you could do Control Z and you can bring it all back. It's up to you what you want to do. For now, I'm just going to leave it just for the sake of our time together. All right, so we got the 0 point whatevers are done. I don't think I plan on making any more, even if there are more. No, we're going to go right into introduction. And the introduction I'm going to use as a 1.0 entry. Oh, before I get any farther, I want to talk about storing and categorizing story entries and everything essentially into groups. When you create something from hit an add item in any of the sidebar buttons here, it puts it as uncategorized. You may want to actually create a category for that, and you hit add category, and we got this group 1, and we can edit it, I believe. Edit. There, oh, this edit button here, I'm sorry, edit there. And I'm going to call it A1 Adventure. Right, now with the A1 Adventure, I could drag and drop these new entries in here, and you can see how they're getting the group assigned to them. Now I could work the rest of the time out of here, and it's going to be grouped in that story that way, so that way it doesn't get mixed and matched with other things you may have loaded. Same thing with like the images. We'll do this for everything in time, but I could add a new group, and I could call it edit A1 Adventure. Stop editing, and then I'll go uncategorized. That's that cover image, and I could drag and drop that into my A1 Adventure. Now it's categorized with the adventure type. Not required, very useful. A lot of people aren't aware of that feature and would appreciate it if they knew it existed. All right, so new story entry. I'm going to go back. We're going to call this the introduction, but we're not going to start introduction. We're going to call it 1.00. Introduction. And go back to the text, and I'm just going to get maybe a page of this. I'll get down to about here. Copy. All right, so we have a lot of text editing to do. You can see here. All right, it takes all the special characters and stuff, but what it doesn't do is keep the It doesn't understand that there was an enter, or maybe it does understand. That's why it keeps it so short. So we have to go back and straighten all this out. So we have one sentence. All right, I'm gonna start cleaning this up. We're not gonna do the whole thing, but you're gonna see. All I do is I hit delete, end, delete, space, end, delete, end, and I just hit arrows. This is literally what the Smiteworks, the converters at Smiteworks, this is what their life's about. This is what they do to get stuff in Fantasy Grounds. They do have some tips and tricks, like putting the text in a notepad document first and removing extra spaces. It does help, but that's not the full scope of this. This is what our converters is. Why sometimes you wonder why things take so long to get done, and we're just talking the text editing. This is what we're talking about. Let's get this set. I'm almost done with what I think I'm gonna do. So we ended up with this page number, delete that, and get the rest of this. All right, and this wants to be its own. So what they did in the book, they made these bold, which I think makes it easier to read. And we got some headers, so I'm going to do some of that same stuff here. So I'll make this a header. So like I said, we could do the radial and go to paragraph and hit heading right here, or I could, be a text in there and I could hit Control-2. All right, let's make that, highlight this, Control-B, Control-B. Make that a header. Control-B, Control-B. You see, this is starting to become a semi-professional looking, I guess, conversion, the way the text is edited in the spacing. And they're not that wide. It usually looks something like this when a GM's running a game, but it's all coming together as a story entry. All right. Any questions so far? I know I've been rattling off. You guys have been awfully quiet. Even for the recording, it's great to have that interaction. If you guys got questions, ask them.
Sure, I typed it into the chat instead, so I'll ask it here. It's okay.
Okay.
I was thinking if you took the text out of there, dropped it into Word, and ran a macro to just remove all of the line breaks.
Yeah.
So that you basically get a flat that.
Yeah, you could do it in Word. We like saying Notepad++ because you want to get it out of a rich text into a plain text. So if you can get Word to run it as a plain text, that'll work.
Gotcha.
Yeah, but you're trying to remove the bonus characters that Fantasy Grounds doesn't recognize. I don't know what it's converted for.
Okay.
But
it's worth testing out.
It is definitely it's definitely worth the effort. I like the guys that do the big conversions, like I know for a fact Mongoose. I know the converter has his own tools with macros where he strips a bunch of the stuff out. I know the D&D 5e converter does the same. Same with the Pathfinder 2 converter. They have their own tools where they strip all the extra spaces and breaks out, so it's faster to get in. But that doesn't mean they still don't have to go line by line against the text to make sure it's formatted the same. Because it will not ingest bold, it will not ingest underline. It doesn't know when text is the title, stuff like that. So.
Right. And to be clear, in the previous class, you can share story entries, but you cannot share the entire story group as one piece.
Correct. Yeah, I could do individual story entries by, like you just said, I'll right-click it, go to share, and then share record. And then you'll see it has this little P next to it, so you know it's public. And you could always unshare it by right-clicking and hit stop sharing. But what we're going to actually do when I did my pre-read of this, there's actually computer information. Referees note, where's the computer information? Library data, sorry. I was thinking we could talk about this at the end. Would we rather make library data a story entry, or would we rather have a under player there's actually notes and make it a notes section for the players? It's really how the referee wants to handle that.
In my opinion, if you're asking opinions, when I run my other campaign stuff, I would keep it all as part of the story because stories are easy to export out and and share out that way, and then I can edit them quickly.
You're right. You're 100%. I just went to the export module. You just said something is you cannot export notes. So if you wanted to make library data modules in Fantasy Grounds, you would have to, just like you said, use story if you wanted to export library data and reuse that library data module in different adventures.
Secondary question along that: can you copy story entries?
Yeah, just like almost anything with a hyperlink. Let me go back. Well, I'm in it, but introduction, drag and drop. I have a copy. So,
and then I can add. And now that that's there, we can now add that to a different group.
Yep.
So that we can use the same library data story entries in multiple different adventures.
Yes. Or I was thinking of being a little bit more malicious. I can make a real library data that I know is accurate data, then create one for my players that is 2 years old. It's not quite up to, they don't have the current geopolitical story entry for the system they're in. They're 2 years out of touch. That'd be fun. There we go. Get rid of that. But yep, great questions. Anybody got anything else before I keep pressing on conversion? Okay. So we just did the introduction. I had to go back up. I just went all the way down to the library data. And I'm not going to get all of this. You guys kind of see where I'm getting at on copy, paste, edit, copy, paste, edit, copy, paste, edit. So the next is the situation. I'm not going to get too much in this because I think one of the first things coming up might be a table. Yep, the rumors table. So I'm going to jump to the rumors table because this is going to do two things for us. I'm going to create a story entry, and I'm going to create this D66 table. So D66, Traveller being a D6 system, we roll D66 for tables. And I'll show us how we set that up. And I like this old school. You don't see this in Mongoose Traveller, the way they make this table where you, if I roll the first digit, my first die rolls a 1, and the second one I rolls a 4, which means the rumor is a D, and I cross-reference it on the specific rumor D down here. They don't really do it anymore that way. The vegans. So, but we're gonna do a rumors story entry, then a table, and we're gonna see what we can roll up on a D66 table. Yeah, so I'm just going to jump into making a story entry. We're going to skip a chapter. We're going to go 3.00 and call it rumors. Or this could be because I know I skipped one portion. This could be 1.3 rumors. It could be a sub of the introduction. Depends how you want to interpret the adventure conversion. Yeah, so rumors, I'm going to grab just a little bit of text, not too much, just so we have something in here. And that way you don't spend too much time watching me do this number. There we go. So we got rumors, we got the story entry made, but we really want to make, I'm going to go ahead and close this, a table, a rollable table here. Let me go back to story because I think I want to show a text table first because that's kind of interesting. So where is my story, Greg? Go back into rumors. I'm gonna grab this. Oh, it's gonna be. I'm not sure if it'll let me. Oh, this is gonna be brutal. I apologize now, but I want to make this as a. Oh, maybe Alt will work. No. Yeah. Maybe Notepad++ would have been beneficial. It's going to be a little rough. A little rough. So just gonna back this out, just kind of getting this all lined back up again. Back this out, enter, back this out, back this guy. Almost there. Wasn't as bad as I thought. Okay, so we want to make this a text table. Remember, right-clicking and paragraph type, I can make a table. I could also do Control-6, which I'm going to do going straight down. And I don't think that should probably be an O. Oop, there we go. And I bet that is a IHI. So it did not read that correct. All right, now, how do I get columns inserted? Well, I could do Control-Tab, putting the cursor in front of each column that I want. All right, just tabbing these into a actual spreadsheet table. All right, so we ran into a problem here. I should have nothing here. So I can do this. I could get in front of the one. I hit Control-Tab, and there we go. Now this is starting to line up. Just hitting arrows, doing this fast now. Controlling tab, arrows. Get this built up quick. All right, now this rumors, I want to make this, I want to join it to my table, but I don't want it to fall in a column. So I'm gonna hit Control-6 on it. You see how it fell into a column here? Well, I could bump it out. I could right click and go to this table commands and hit this increase column span, right? And you know how I like using the shortcuts, I'll show you that. Increase column span. I could actually hold down Control and hit my plus sign on my keypad. And then maybe I'll highlight that, make it a B. I'll highlight these, make them Control B. And unfortunately I can't go down, so I gotta one at a time. You see how I was able to get that, and I was able to translate this rumors table into a fantasy grounds table. All right, so what I do want to make this a rollable table that actually generates a story entry, or at least a chat entry as I do this. So, like I said, sorry, I backtracked, but I thought it was more important to show this first. And I'm going to leave this up because I actually could probably copy and paste this text, or at least use it for reference rather than going back and forth. All right, so back again. Sorry, I'm on tables over here in campaign. I'm going to create a new table, or I could hit add table by size. That would be interesting. I might be able to pull that off, but I don't know if I want to do it that way. I know it's only a 6x6. I could do import text. And I don't know if I want to do this either because I'm just going to show you why. All right, I got some cleanup to do. I think it's going to keep all these brackets. You can choose simple or delimited. So if you're copying this out of a CSV or a Notepad plain text file, you could actually get it in here and hit import. Yeah, I don't like what this did at all. This is not a D66 table, so that's not going to work for me. I'm going to delete that. I'm going to create one from scratch. I'm going to hit add item. Make this a little bit bigger. All right, this is the rumors table, so rumors. And a little sub-description, I'm just going to keep it the same. You guys have your choice. We have the die result and the labels. So there's going to be a singular rumor because a dice result will only result in one rumor. All right, so D66, you have an 11 through 16 using the first digit, or a 11 through 66, really, when you want to think about it for the last two digits. To get a D66 dice roll in here, you want to right-click your D6 here, You want to go to this Mario Kart looking question box, custom dice, and if you hover over, you get a tooltip. And this one at about the 1 o'clock position is a D66. So I'm going to left click and drag and drop it in here. You can see now that I have a 1D66. All right, this is where things are a little bit interesting. So my first die result will be on a D66. We'll have a 1 and a 1, which is, that is an 11. Then you have a 1 and a 2, which is a 12. All right, I got to keep adding. Then I have a 1 and a 3, which is a 13. So 13 to 13. You can see where I'm going with this. 14 to 14. 15 to 15. And 16 to 16. Right? And then at 16, it rolls down to a 2 and a 1. So we got 21 to 21. And I'm not going to... I may not do all of these. I'm going to get through a chunk of them, though. So 22 to 22. 23 to 23, 24, 24 to 24, 25 to 25, 26 to 26, and then this is where I'm going to start cheating. I'll just make this a 31 to 36, 41 to 46, 51 to 56, and I need one more. A 61 to 66. All right, and then this could be, we know this is going to be A, just did my caps lock, B, C, D, E. But we're going to get out of the text, really. What is rumor A? This is what I really want. Rumor A. Copying rumor A. I think it inherited the page number. Yeah. And my... Yeah. There you go. Edit this. And rather than copy all that stuff in, I'm just going to, for the sake of our time, let's put the same thing in over and over again, rather than you guys watching me edit and insert all of these. But this is so you can see what the result is going to be. You just have to know that, you know, at 12 would have been a B, at 13 would have been a C right out of the text. I'm going to fill this in. All right. So it's completely filled out. Not accurate to the adventure, but you guys get the gist that you would put each rumor in where it belongs, corresponding to this table. Lock this thing up. I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna grab that TAS, the task link. I'm gonna hyperlink it in right in here. So now when I get to the story entry, when I'm playing my adventure, I can open it up. I can roll this. I rolled a 56, which would correspond to my either my 56 or my 51 to 56 in this case. No, they're all the same rumors, and my players would get that rumor. You could make that a story entry, in which case it'll actually create a new story for us, and we can go now to story. And this is a way you can make D66 tables or any type of tables to make a random story, like choose your own adventure kind of a deal. I'm going to delete that because I don't want it for ours. When we get to creating items and parcels, I'll show us how to make a random parcel output. Same thing when we get to NPCs and encounters, we can make a random encounter output. But for now, the rumors and story are what we want to use for text type results. All right, 52 corresponds to 51 to 56. So it's doing what it's designed to do. I have the wrong text in here because we didn't want to watch me edit all of those possible results. Any questions about building a text table like that, both doing this and doing the rollable text?
No,
When they're rollable,
straightforward.
Oop, sorry. You got it, John. You go first.
Oh, I just said no. It seems pretty straightforward.
Okay.
And the only way to stop it from just doing automatic chat output is to do it as a story.
Right. Yeah. If you want to keep that to yourself, the referee, you make it a story, and then you choose whether or not you're gonna share it, or you could always just highlight it, Control C, and then Control V if you actually end up wanting it to be in chat. That's viable.
So can you show me one thing in the story? Change the group to uncategorized or any of the other groups, and now roll that rumor and see. I'm sure. Yeah, does it make it into the correct?
Yeah, good question. Because the story it's nested in. Yeah, it's whatever you have open. No one's ever asked me that. That's good. Good to know. Yeah, because if you're playing out of a category, you don't see where it's going. Sometimes it's no, or you always click all, I suppose, but depends how much stuff you have loaded to find it. Great questions. What else? Okay. I'm gonna close this up. Like I said,
table. When you make a table visible in the chat, no, but can players go to tables on their own to see ones that are shared?
Yeah, so you could actually just drag and drop a table into chat. You can see now that it's public, and players they could open and make their own roll.
That's what I'm thinking. Like you mentioned the choose your own adventure thing. It's like I could leave it up. And log on, go find 3 rumors at Starport during the week, and then when we play on Saturday, here's the stuff for it.
Yeah. Now, to be clear, if they could see this, the rumors, they could see what the possible outcomes are. If you really want to get clever, we'll do a little sidetrack on this. So I'm gonna make 2 tables. We'll call this the player. Oop, I saw the caps on. Player rumor table. And I'm going to make this super, super easy for us for the sake of this. D66. Right, and we'll just call this an 11 to a 1, 2, 3, 36, and a 41 to a 66. I believe we could roll tables in tables. So I'll take that rumors table that we made. Sorry, kind of bouncing around. I'll nest that in here. I'm going to make another one and call it rumors. But this one is just going to be a straight... I'm going to actually delete this. Let's call it a 1 to 100 so it looks like something's rolling, but there'll be no rumor. All right, and I'll put that one in here. So now, when I roll on this table, my players, they don't see, maybe, I don't know if they'll be able to open that or not. But it's rolling nested tables. Tables in tables. We have the inception of tables going on.
The reason I'm thinking is if you leave the game up for people to log in during the week, when they log in, they don't see previous chat, so they wouldn't be able to see it in the chat to click on it.
Right.
But if they go to tables, it'll show as a publicly shared table, and they could go roll off of that.
Yeah, but I'm just saying they could see all the possible outcomes. If you don't care about that, that's fine. But one way to possibly mask it, because I'm not going to make this table share. That table's not shareable. The player. Let me stop sharing this. We're going to share this one, right? So they won't know what's in these. Hopefully, they can only roll and get their results. Because they're hopefully masked in there. But great question, and yeah, you leave it up and then they get that. By the way, just tips and tricks for Fantasy Grounds since we're in here. Your players, you could encourage them, or you could do it yourself to create notes. And they could, if someone wants to scribe rumors and keep rumors for the table, they don't have to type all this in here. They could actually just grab the text, drag and drop it, and it's all done for them. So if you got anybody that's, trying to stay on top of the rumors that's coming through chat and stuff was flying fast at a game session, or for anything really, they could even grab this. You could grab hyperlinks and they could put it in there as well. Anything, almost anything in chat that you could grab. And they could make that same thing, formatting control 1. They could grab stuff if they want, rather than doing the old-fashioned way of typing it all out. Okay, anything else on tables? We're gonna, like I said, if time permitting, we'll do random encounters and random parcels, but okay. Let me get back in the adventure. I think we're about to make a ship. This is going to be interesting. I actually haven't done this, and so you guys are watching me do it for the first time with you. Right? So we're going to take as much of this information as we can. I'm going to actually put this, I have a second monitor. I'm going to move it over to the second monitor, so you guys will have to take my word for it that I'm copying the correct data over. But it's going over on my screen over here. So we're going to make a new spacecraft record. Now, we have two types of spacecraft records. You have a PC spacecraft. These are for players to use. And then we have this regular spacecraft under campaign. Consider this an NPC spacecraft record. What's interesting about Fantasy Grounds, and I'll do it right now, and we'll do this later, is to make a PC spacecraft. We talked about this a little bit in the 101 class last week. You hit the plus sign, add item. And rather than have to fill all of this out, you could just take, we'll take a Safari ship, and I could drag and drop it here. It just populates it with all the information that's in the Safari ship. This is all here. So you don't ever, you could, but you don't want to if you don't have to make a scout courier from scratch when you could actually just grab it and drag and drop it onto the record. All right, and then the players could have whatever they want to call this. Jolly Roger. So we'll come back to this at the very end too. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna make that battle cruiser using the spacecraft records. Same thing. You guys haven't guessed it now. We're going to add item. All right, it is called. Let's see. Is it just called battle cruisers, or does it actually have a better name? It is a Kinner class. So we'll just call it a. Me. Yep. Let's call it like that, right? Oh. No. See? You can tell I'm going to put that in the class, and this is just called a battle cruiser. All right, so I'm just going to go down the line. It's a little bit easier going down that way. So the next thing that comes up that is matters is 10 officers, 35 men, and 35 troops. It has a J drive, J4, and power plant 4. Let me go. What sec level type? Yep. I may have to side by side this with something. Let me get a big old ship. Let me get a mercenary cruiser not big. I'm gonna get a copy of a record because that way I could unlock it. All right, as I expect. System. Okay, that's how they do it. They call it Let's type it up. Jump 3. I was just gonna put 3 in here, but it's clear that it needs to be jump -3 for Fantasy Grounds. All right, power plant. I have a power plant 4. This has a anybody see a power plant? Sensors, J drive, maneuver. Oh. May not be transferable 1-for-1. Alright, next up, engineering. JK Fusion power plants. Power plant, power plant. I'm going to just copy this. That's the whole thing. I'll just get it all in here. Greg, there you go. Okay. Next up is standard gravity. I don't think they track gravity on a Mongoose Traveller record for ship type. Armament. We'll get back to that because we're actually going to build that up in the actions. So let me finish this. The electronics is a computer with AI. Oof. And this is staterooms. No. Oh, this was a jump 4. Just noticing now. M drive. I bet it's thrust 4. Hull. So this is a 1,200 ton. Yep. Yep. Standard niche compensator, unlimited maneuver, 1 jump, 200 days. Probably gonna keep it like that for now. Boy. I'll put the weapons in here, but we'll have to get them on the action sheet. So weapons, they're in here now.
Are ships available to do something like this on the Forge? Like if you go and create, is that an importable thing like maps and tokens?
Yeah, if you... It goes down to the copyright, I suppose. But... for whatever, I mean, we should ask. Ferroid.
I'll be here on the I will be here on the 31st to ask.
Yeah, because Ferroid, he does do, far traders, free traders, scout couriers. I don't know what the IP, intellectual property rules are on doing that. Obviously, I know he's talked to Mongoose. He was at the last year's symposium and they talked through it. So, yeah, talking with Mongoose Matt. Hopefully next week. He gives some more insight to that. I don't want to get anybody in trouble. All right, so you can see we start filming. So I'm not going to go through the whole thing once again, just because we watch me do this all day. But the weapons, you're gonna want to put them on the actions tab as well. Because I have just the core rules, we probably don't have everything I need. So I'm going to see if there's something related in the high guard real quick that I could grab. High guard. Just gotta get it loaded. And I'm gonna go to my items. And this had like a missile launcher. Right, but we probably want this at capital size. There is a way to do that. Spacecraft scale. Here we go. Missile turrets. There we go. Double turret missile racks. Particle accelerator. Let's see if it has something like that. Large particle beam bay, particle barbette. Well, let's go a large particle beam bay. There we go. Start loading this thing up. Now, by default, it assumes that the crew is unskilled. You will never assign a crew, NPC crew, to an NPC record. If you know that the crew has a gunner of a skill 1 and dex bonus 1, you could probably make this a positive 2 on behalf of the crew. That is something you have to do as a referee. There is no override of assigning NPCs to positions here. All right, so now we have the attack action. All right, I'm scrolled up. Let's see. I had a miss. We'll say it was a hit. Then I just roll the damage. And the damage is there. We'll go through a little bit of a mock combat when we make the NPC one up here in a little bit. Any questions about Spacecraft? Yeah. Next item, like I said, I would have just started copying and pasting everything over, making it as one for one as I could. Okay, the next one should be pretty quick. We can make the Regina subsector, not the map so much. I would just use travelermaps.com and just import that in, take a screenshot and import that into my game as a PNG or JPEG, like we did earlier. If you're not aware, Traveler Maps is phenomenal. I don't want to, because this is recorded, I don't want to go fanboy, but oh my goodness, the amount of time and effort to create that. Check out Traveler Maps. It's because I play online using a VTT. I'm constantly have my Discord sharing my Traveler map for my players so they could see what I'm looking at, and they feel immersed that way. But we're gonna make a quick system using this UWP, the world profile, universal world profile, using the hexadecimal coding. So we're just gonna make a fate. We're gonna get that in real quick. So I'm gonna just real quick. This is the hex, the grid number on a hex map. This is the UWP that we want to use. All right, so that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to pull this back over. I'm taking it right from that. I'm going to go over here to systems under campaign, I believe. Systems, here it is. I'm going to hit this add item. And this UWP, I'm just going to type it in, see what happens. Alpha 646930. Hit tab. Look at that. It filled it all in for me. So subsector is Regina. Hex location is 0105. What is this? The Spinward Marches off the top of my head? Anybody confirm, or is that Trojan Reach by then? I think it's Spinward Marches. And just like that, I have a well, not just like that. I guess I gotta call it right. So I have this now, and we could add more stuff to this, but out of the adventure, this is all I really needed. We could add additional spaceports. We could add the berthing cost, the fuel cost, extra facilities, additional ports if there's more than one high port, or there's more than one planet in the system with a high port or a down port or something like that. Notes, we want to maybe make contacts in here. We could do that. Trade, we'd start filling this up. We know that if we pre-roll this before our adventure begins, we could start putting stuff in here, like 100 tons of silk, right? 500 tons of computer parts, etc. We just start filling this thing up. If you're into pre-filling this stuff up for your adventure, rolling it out ahead of time, or you could use Traveller tools and do it on the fly. Like that's how I do it. So I'm flipping back and forth between my Traveller map and my Traveller tools, and I'm generating trade in my Traveller tools based on their broker result or streetwise. But you could totally, this is very plausible old school way of doing it, is pre-filling, rolling it out before your adventure begins and having all that filled out. Yeah, like that. And just to show, we could always, if we need it, Let me get rid of this rumor. You know, we can make a Regina subsector systems story entry, and then we could just start populating it with all the systems that we created for a quick reference. And I would put that on, 2.00 or something. Slot that thing in there. Remember, if there's an appendix, Regina is spelled with an E. There you go, Greg. Okay. But any questions then about creating systems? Okie dokie. Moving on. I think the next thing coming up is actually creating some crew. Oh, I could get this in. Let's do. I was planning on bringing this in. So I'm using, again, my snipping tool. And I'm going to save it. And I'm going to call it Regina subsector map. Maybe I would rather make map at the beginning so it groups all maps together. Do something like that. Saved. I'm going to import the image. Import files. JPEG to PNG. Map. Open. And I'll put that on the background. I just want to kind of show this thing off. See, now we have it in game. This older stuff is harder to take advantage of the effects that you get with Fantasy Grounds. You could kind of grayscale it, put night vision on it. I don't know. That's Parchment. If I do that a lot. That reminds me of a ChessX map, if you know what I'm talking about. Playing at a table. My black and white maps that I usually put it on Parchment. This doesn't look terrible. It does make it feel older to me though. Dear goodness. Or I'll just leave it at none. This is how it came out. So this is now, take that back out. This is something you could share with your players. You could once again nest in a story. Like so. And this could be a good computer library entry too, if you want to share this with your players. Up to you how you want to do that. Okay, I think, like I said, coming up, I think was crew. We may talk about making a floor plan later. That's next level stuff though. That could be like a Ref 103 class. I know there were chief petty officers that I wanted to create. Ah, here they are, the crew. Radio. So we have this commanding officer. These are his skills. I believe this is his UPP. Straight eights. Kind of interesting. But you see these guys, they have their hexadecimals or more realistic spreads. So I would... Oh. Commanding officer. I wonder what that is then. We're going to go off of this regardless. This is what I was planning on doing. I was going to do I guess we do any of them. Let's just make the commanding officer. You know what? We'll do him. So I'm going to be using this UPP. Was that strength, dex, endurance, intelligence, education, and social? Right?
Yes.
Yep. So I'm going to move this over.
Just learned that last week.
Yeah. So let's make our NPC. So back in campaign, I'm going to make an NPC here. I'm going to create a new item. And this has the UPP. It's the hexadecimal we can fill out. So this is the ship captain. He's human. We could keep him... race humans, there's more than one, so he could be like Villani, right? We could give him a homeworld if we want. Profession, this is, ship captain. And we're just going to call him the personality of ship captain because that's what he is in the adventure, I believe. Gosh. All right. UPP. Let's get right into it. 8 Delta 4 8 Alpha Charlie. And then that's 6. I'm going to tab out of it. Fill it all out. So 8 strength. Delta is 13. 4 is a 4. 8 Alpha's a 10. And Charlie's a 12. Awesome. And these are rollable if you need to make an opposed social on a check or something like that. So next up, it's going to be at our discretion unless it says otherwise, because it doesn't actually, on these lines, doesn't tell them what they're equipped with, just what their skills are. Do we have any old school travelers present that might tell me that this will tell me the equipment? If not, I'm sure we'll see the comments in the YouTube. Right? So we'll make up what he has, but I'm going to go based off of what his skills are, which isn't very good. He's got a revolver, so I'm going to give him an item. I'm going to give him a revolver because he has a revolver skill. Let's go to weapons. And let's see, revolver. All right, so it's in here. Currently the attack is at 0. I'll give him the skill. I'll go with skills just as I see him in here. He's got an admin. And admin is at 1. He's got a pilot. Pilot is at 1, so for Mongoose Traveller2, that to me means capital ships because I think that's what this is. Put that at 1, and regular pilot is going to be at... Ooh, can I not get it in? Oh, I took out the comma. Pilot. Come on, you. Maybe it's just assumed because it's a specialty. Let me see if I can get Spacecraft in. I can. I'm setting it. There we go. I don't want Spacecraft though. All right, next up he's got Jack of all trades. Lucky Duck Jack. Next up, this double comma stuff is killing me. Not that it really, it has to be comma separated. I don't think a second comma is going to do anything, but navigator. So I got navigation. And last but not least is his revolver 2. There is no revolver skill. It's actually gun. Combat archaic. I'll go with that. Gun combat archaic 1. And I gave him his regular combat. Okay. So now with that, with his 1 and his dex is 0, I'm going to bump this up to a +1 now to his attack roll. You have to manually override it. And then this will be the damage if he hits with it. Excellent. So he's pretty much created. I could give him a token. If I have a token I want to import through assets. You have to make your own tokens, and you can bring them in. By going to your folder, and I didn't do this by the way, and finding where you have it stored. There are no images for me to tokenize them, so I'm just going to grab a token from somewhere. I think Fantasy Grounds has a FG Sci-Fi or something. Oh, here, it didn't have adventures. Here's my captain. For whatever reason, that's him. And I think that's really as much as I'm willing to get in on him with. I could give him armor. I could give him a cloth armor or something. Tech level 7. All right, so I gave him protection 5, so she'll be shrugging off that damage now if he gets into a combat. So I have a ship captain. Any questions about? We can make notes if we want to create a background for him, or maybe he's an ally or an enemy from character creation. We could annotate that here if we wanted to. Any questions about character creation and using UPPs to quickly fill this out and dragging and dropping everything else in here?
It all looks good.
Okay. So, like I said before, we can make a NPCs into an encounter. So rather than just grabbing and putting, oh, I got some stuff here from a last class. Rather than dragging and dropping NPCs into our combat tracker one at a time, we could actually make an encounter, which we call battles in Fantasy Grounds. So I'm going to open up battles. I'll leave this up here because we're going to use it. And get rid of the skills. All right. So we're going to make a new battle. This will be the ship battle. Just call it whatever I want. That's what we're going to call it for the sake of the class. We're going to have the ship captain. And he's got 2 pet raptor lizards, and I'll make that number 2. If we had a battle map, we could pre-place these tokens down. If I go to images, I don't have one in. Well, I could put them on here, but that's kind of defeats the purpose. Let me see if I got something like a ship plan. So. Actually, the faster way to get to that would be a spacecraft and go into a system tech plan. Oh gosh, isometric. I can't wait for the next version to come out of the advanced or the core updates. All right, but we can pre-place these guys on a ship. All right, like so. All right, and then let's go ahead and now that they're pre-placed, I don't want to close that, but once you go and add encounter, add battle to combat tracker, it's going to automatically place these here. And this, what you didn't really realize is the players didn't see these yet, even though you placed them. It's not until you add them that they're on the map. But then they're still hidden, if you remember from our Referee 101 class. It's not until you reveal the NPCs that the players can see them. And you do that one at a time or do them all at once.
So now because it's something new with the core rules, and I think it's in the new Traveller rules too with ships. Mm-hmm. Can you do just throw up a blank star map? I put 2 small scout ships or whatever out there.
Yeah.
And the 2 scout ships go onto the combat tracker. And then does the crew of the ship automatically go onto the combat tracker also?
Not if you're having a space combat. That's the problem.
Okay.
Yeah, space combat. That's why you have to modify ahead of time. They don't get their own battles, right? You can't do that. But your spacecraft, with the ones you're going to use in a battle, you actually have to go ahead of time and modify their attacks because those crew will never link to this.
Okay.
It's a unique and
separate. Player characters don't link either, or is it only?
Oh, NPCs? They certainly do. Yeah, players do link. So before I move on, this will be a good spot to do it because I know we're getting close on time for those that I said we're only going to be here for an hour and a half. Let's do that. Let's talk about a spacecraft combat. So we have our normal combat tracker, which is in all core rules, and we just put the ship captain and 2 raptor lizards up there. But we have a spacecraft combat tracker. This is different. This is what we're actually managing spacecraft combat in. So we could go back and we'll use that example. The NPC will be the we'll make it the battle cruiser for the heck of it. And put that in there. All right, we see if I hit attacks, I should have, my double turret missiles and my large particle beams. Remember, we said our gunners are now at a 2 between their skills and computers, etc. I could put another spacecraft in there and we could call it the player ship, but that's no fun. We want them to take automation. So let me close the spacecraft combat tracker for now. I want to make sure I have a couple of PCs. I got 1. Let me load a couple in here so we can see how Fantasy Grounds handles this. As I was taking some out of some previous campaigns. Trying to remember who's got some skills.
I have skills. I have mad skills.
Mad skills. Oh, hey, Windrunner. That's going to be on the recording for YouTube, by the way.
Awesome.
Everybody's going to know.
Now everybody will know I have mad skills.
Yeah. I don't know. Hopefully these should be enough. So now I got, I think 4 characters now loaded under PCs. Yeah. So we'll use these 4. Hope they got enough skills. All right. So we want to give them, we'll say they want a scout courier. So we're going to make this PC spacecraft. I remember we made that Jolly Roger earlier, but I'm going to get rid of it. We'll make our scout courier. We'll call it the high and dry. Right. Because that comes out of one of the intro adventures. And I'll go to the spacecraft, the NPC record spacecraft. And I'm going to go to a scout courier. And we'll make it a type S for the sake of it. Drag and drop the record over. So we got the pilot, astrogator, engineer. We don't have a gunner because there are no guns currently on the system. But we can make it a double turret, whatever, because we have a spot for that. So let's call it a double turret. Nope. Double was spelled incorrectly. Double turret, we'll make it a double turret beam laser. That's what this high and dry is going to have. We are not going to adjust the attack like we do for the NPC record. We're going to let the player skills override the double turret. And that reminds me. Do we have PCs with a gunner? Talix might. Oop. Skills. Gunner. Yep, he should be good. So he'll be our gunner when we get this going. Alright, so before we can put this in the combat tracker, we have to crew it up. In order to crew it up, and close that, we have to put it on the party sheet. So I go to the ships tab. I take the PC spacecraft we just made, the high and dry. I'm going to drag it over. Next, I'm going to take our 4 player characters and I'm going to crew them up over here as passengers. Now that they're crewed up, I'll go into, I'm going to say I'm Talix. Talix, what he does is go to his ships tab. It's now linked through the party sheet. He's going to change his role to, oh no, we don't have a gunner. Well, we have to go into the high and dry record. Just double click on it. Comma separated like a lot of things. Call it gunner. And then maybe we can make marine. And we can make medic. Oh, come on, Greg. Caps really don't matter on that, but my shift finger must be exhausted from work today. Alright, medic. Close that up. Let me see now. Here we are. So he's going to be the gunner. You can see that automatically changed on my end. I didn't have to do anything. The player did it. I want to see my actions. I'm going to hit show. Now it just pulled the double turret beam. You can see that his attack isn't a -3 but a +1 based on his dex and his skill. His dex must be at a 0 bonus or something.
I assume if we had mistyped gunner that it wouldn't properly pull the double turret.
It actually would. It shows all available actions regardless of your crew
Okay.
position.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, but
Good to know.
yeah, so I can make this a 14 so he gets the bonus. But if you do that, this is a tip. You got to go to the actions tab and refresh sometimes just to make sure it's reset to max. But now, when I pull it again, yeah, I got my additional +1 now.
Yep.
On my dex. So skill. So here we go. So Talix is at the stick there. We're just gonna leave him. We could get the other characters involved. They should be doing crew stations as we go through this. So I could assign Carl. He'll be the medic. Go to ship. He'll be a medic. All right. We'll have Danville be something, an engineer or the pilot, because those are 2 critical positions. Jamie, engineer, and then Danville will be the pilot. All right. So now we have a crew complement for our space combat, and they're in their assigned positions, which they could change as we go through combat. There's actually a phase for that. So open up the combat tracker. We already put the NPC battle cruiser in. All right, I'm going to add the PC spacecraft high and dry in here, and it should get smoked by this battle cruiser, but we're gonna play it anyway. And I didn't add a hull or anything like that. We're gonna give him like 200. All right, and ooh, may have to let me delete him and add him again so he has some hull. Oop, not NPC, spacecraft. Battle cruiser. Did I not save? I did not save it. Craig, you putz. There we go. Now he's got some hull. Probably way more than that. Right. So now, just rhetorically, now we could actually start playing this like this in a theater of the mind without a map. That's not how we got the maneuver step, rotate out of that, the attack step, action step where they redo, and you just start cycling through. We want to play on a map that has range bands, just because that's how Traveller works. It's very, what's the word I'm looking for? Abstract, right? We don't have tactical maps per se. We don't play in three-dimensional space in a space game when it comes to space combat. So I could bring in an image or assets that I may have and make a map. I do have some John Brazier, JBE, John Brazier Enterprise maps. So let me see what I got. Yeah, I'll do the... Which ones are his?
The only one that says it's his there is that one.
Yeah, it's got to be that one. Yep. I'm bringing an image, and I don't want a grid. Perfect. This is what we're going to fight on as a backdrop. I do have a buddy of mine that made me a range band PNG file. We don't have one with... we don't have one to use that come with the core rules. Data... Images, campaign, nope. There it is. My radar. It's way too small. I'm gonna make that a stamp, unlock it, and paintbrush, and I'm gonna stamp this bad boy right in here. And I'm gonna make that like 100. Nope, that's way too big now. 20. That works. Alright, so that'll be my range band. Let me lock this thing back up. That's what we're going to be playing on. The high and dry. We'll go dead center. And I could bump it up a little bit. I'm holding control and using my mouse wheel to make it bigger. And the battle cruiser will be out at this range band here. Make it visible to my players. So as they close the gap, they'll close through range bands, and then they get their bonuses or minuses to hit based on the range band. Doesn't matter really where you put them. This one quadrant is all you need for a one-on-one space combat. I would never personally play with more than 5 tokens on a map, because 1 for my players and then 4 for the NPCs, 1 in each quadrant as they're closing or distancing each other. So now that they're on the map, me as the GM, say this guy's going first. You roll initiatives in the. Let me go back to the maneuver step at the very first. The beginning, we declare all that. I'm not going to get into the game mechanics. I'm going to get into the VTT mechanics, and we're just going to get straight to the attack step. Me as the GM, as a referee, I like to, with the attacks open, I'll take the large particle beam, and I could drag and drop. I should be able to release right over the high and dry. Nothing happens. This does not work like our normal combat tracker. You pretty much got to use the targeting system, but I'm going to try something because I don't normally do this. Can I drag and drop it here? Oh, that does work. Okay. So you can see, let me see if I can make this a little bit smaller so you can see the results. The hit's always on an 8. So I hit marginal success. I hit it exactly on an 8 so I don't get bonus damage. Although this 8d6 is going to do an awful lot to the high and dry. So drag and drop it. I don't have them targeted. Nothing happened. Let's target them.
What?
This is... There you go. I wonder if it's because radiation is in there. There we go. Yeah, that's why. So 24 damage. Let me ignore this. That was nothing. So I can apply the incoming damage at 24. Hit apply. That caused a bunch of criticals. Armor reduced by D3. So I pick up a D3. Whoop. This is not automated. D3. Reduced by 1. Right now, I'd update the armor. Thrust reduced by 1. Leak, lose 1 tons of fuel per hour. And then all checks to control spacecraft suffer -1 DM. All the criticals were applied for exceeding the damage threshold there. Now, for me, the players, when it's their turn, when we go down to them, they are going to target. I have to target for them. All right, and you have to see that. Let's see. Come on, you. Let me clear this guy's target. So clear. I'm targeting myself. Targets. Nope, can't do it on the map. Gotta learn my lesson. There we go. Yeah, it could only target and do drag and drop methods in the spacecraft combat tracker. Right, so I have the battle cruiser targeted. Now my player, Talix, right, he's the one that's at the guns. So I'm emulating my players. So I go to PCs. And I go to Talix. And I go to his ships, show actions. Go ahead and close this. He's going to make his attack. Critical.
Nice.
Nice. He's going to roll his damage. Alright, so I'm going to apply this. The criticals automatically going to get applied. Alright, and this armor is reduced by 1. Now they could try to repair stuff when they get in the engineering step, in the action step, I suppose, and try to repair some things if the engineers are on board. But that's essentially combat and crew positions and how to kind of run it. I love Traveller. This is my least favorite thing to do, and I would not do this without Fantasy Grounds. Don't know if I would ever do this at a table. But what questions you guys have for me on spacecraft combat?
How do you get it to automatically do ranging?
You mean like targeting, or what do you mean ranging?
Yeah. For the how far away?
Yeah.
Different weapons can only go so far.
Yeah. So range bands. Yeah, we use this thing called range bands. I'm going to bring it up. And I used to, when I first started playing, I wanted to set a grid on a map by kilometers. And you'll see why. Space combat. And we have... Let's see. Do we talk about range bands at the beginning of space combat or at the end when we get into shooting? Attack step. Alright, so these are our range bands. So let me do a side by side. So we have a short range. That's this first band here, right? We have a long range. We have a very long, and we just keep going out and out and out, and that's how we're getting our modifiers by each band that it starts depreciating by going outward. Now these bands, let me see if I can find what it says for range on a range band. It's not 1 for 1. Each band isn't like 500 kilometers or something. It almost gets like exponential as you go out. So you can't,
I thought it was exponential or logarithmic.
Yeah, so I can't make Fantasy Grounds calculate exponentially starting from a center point, which is the problem. So I'm always using this range band PNG that my buddy made for me. Because I could put a grid down, and I can make each grid. Right now it's 1.5 meters. I can make each grid, 100, KM, but there's no way to start the exponential going out from center. It would be true. So if I wanted a very, very long distance, I would need an enormous map to put that thing way out there. And you'd be so zoomed out, you don't even see what's going on. Which is realistic, I suppose. But it's just for me, I don't play with the grid. Just use the static range band rules as written just because, I mean, Traveller. It is what it is.
That's why I'm going to be a player for the next few months to learn it all again.
Yeah, make your GM do some space combat for you. It's interesting. It could take a full 3-hour, 4-hour session, but sometimes it's like it goes after the first 2 rounds of combat. You know who's going to win. You just got to wait for that armor to get reduced over time, and we might just like, okay, you know what? They surrender. They realize they're going to lose. Or they go in for the boarding action, and I do the boarding action rules. I do the fast rules usually for the initial, and then if my crew doesn't repel, then I actually go into a zoomed-in 2D deck plan where they actually fight it out, a la Star Wars Episode 4.
Excellent.
Yeah. So
Cool.
staying out at this distance, pecking away at each other. Not a fun way to play Traveller for me. Yeah, but others may enjoy it. I prefer to get it down to that, do a boarding action, then get out of a space combat tracker and into a normal combat tracker. That's my preference of style. I don't want to dissuade anybody from their type of fun. All right, so what have we covered so far? Any other questions? I'm going to do a quick recap, and then I think looking at this adventure, the only thing I haven't done is make an item yet.
One quick question. Is there anything that's in the Traveller rule set for fantasy rounds that's different, radically different than using for the other rule sets type things?
I can't speak to
other than Spacecraft.
Yeah. I've only played Traveller on Mongoose 2 only because it was available licensed on Fantasy Grounds. If it wasn't for that, I don't know if I would ever picked it up. To be honest, I've always been aware of it. I've been playing since the early '90s, but tabletop RPGs. But no.
I played the original Black Box Traveller way million years ago, so that's why I'm trying to pick this up now.
Yeah, but the functionality. You're going to roll 2d6 all day because that's how it's programmed.
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to make some modifications like we were doing for the Spacecraft. I was doing my best to make it 1-for-1. But the old stuff is just more of a framework. It's not actually like a full fleshed out. Like it's whatever you want to make those NPCs their gear. That's up to you. And the UWPs and the UPPPs, those seem pretty static through the decades. There's no need to convert a 6 triple or 6 A's to a 6 9s because it's changed slightly in the rules. There's still 1-for-1, that's for sure.
Who's doing the rule set right now? Is that Dom?
Mad Beer Man.
Okay. Oh, that's right. So, but I think that that would still be another good question, just to ask Matt Bierman when we have him on. So
yeah,
and he does, he does participate with us regularly. So
yeah, I plan to be here, and I've been chatting with him on Twitter about things.
Cool.
Yep. Very cool.
All right, so last thing, guys, I was going to show an item creation. Unfortunately, we don't actually have very good documentation like we do for other rule sets on creating an item. It's a lot of trial and error. So if I wanted to create a gun, all right, I could start filling this up. I could call it I'll make it like an M16, standard, something we know as a rifle. Do I call it a rifle? Do I call this a rifle? Or do I call this a weapon? right? Which it is. I knew it is because it opened up the damage stuff. Right. The best way to figure out what these fields should be when you create an item, and clear that back out, because then you'll see it closes. That stuff's not there. Is to take a like item, so I could filter this down to weapons, and I'll just take this assault rifle because I know it's gonna be a like item, an M16. Made the copy. That way I could unlock the record, and I could actually take a look at what something similar is. So, okay, this needs to be weapons. This needs to be slug throwers rifles. All right, tech level. This came from over the back.
You need to get rid of the word rifle at the beginning of slug throwers.
Oh yeah, that's from before. Thank you.
Yep.
Damage. Maybe this will be a 3d6 minus 2, so I could grab right click 3d6, drop it. See, that didn't work, so I had to type it out. So 3d6 minus 2 now. All right, that should work when I put it. I'll put it on a character sheet. Magazine. There's 30 in a magazine. Range. I don't know. I know I was in the military. I could hit a target at 300 meters. Auto 2.
Doubt it on auto, but okay.
Not on auto. I can do it on single. Burst, not going to happen.
Yep.
Skill. Gun combat slug. Alright, and that's it. And you could put more notes in here, right? So let me put this M16 on a character. Italics, you're getting an M16 equipment.
I think you favor Talix.
What's that?
I said I think you favor Talix.
Yeah,
he gets all the cool stuff.
I use them a lot in testing my conversions. So Talix, now on his actions, he has this M16. He must be skilled in it because I don't have the unskilled skill. So when I attack with him, I hit extra damage.
Nice.
The damage was, remember, we made it 3d6 minus 2, so it should roll straight up plus the bonuses there. 16 damage. Oh man, that would knock somebody out cold if they're not wearing armor. We'll ruin somebody's day. That's unconscious. So that's how I figure out how to create custom items, is taking a look at a like item, opening up the record by making a duplicate, and then doing a side by side, trying to get what I need out of it. And just like remember, NPCs build battles, items build parcels. Let me bring it up. I can make a ship locker, we'll call it. Maybe they raided another ship and they went to the ship locker. And I can grab, I can put the M16 in here, put a couple of these guys. Let's put some, make it 6 rocket launchers for funsies and 500 credits. That way, rather than drag and drop each individual item into the party sheet where we reward inventory, I could just single drag and drop that in here, and it populated everything for me. Now my players could go in and they could claim this by grabbing the TAS, the task link, to their character sheet, like so. I'm going to use Danville because everybody thinks I'm biased. Go to his equipment tab and grab that M16, put it in, right, and the whole party will see that Danville grabbed it. I could hit the loot distribution. This will evenly distribute this against those that are in my party sheet. So right now it's just him. So let me add the PC. At least, I'll get all 4 in. And inventory and distribute that. Split it evenly. Everybody should have got, 125. Things like
Can you click and drag on those for distribution as well?
Not coinage, not currency, only items.
Okay.
I don't think credits are coinage, but yeah.
Okay. I know in the second edition party sheet, I can enter that in and then just drag that number over to characters, so I can give somebody a double reward and things like that.
Well, let me see. Maybe it's a feature that I haven't tried before and just assume doesn't work. So you're saying you just do this and you drag.
But actually, no, try that, but I don't think that will work.
It did work, yeah, but it's still left at 100 there.
Yeah, no, exactly. Yeah,
Okay, I learned something new.
Yeah, and on the second one, you can do that you've got the listing of all the characters there on this same sheet, so you can drag it right to them without having their character sheet open. But that's useful.
I see what you mean. So
really useful. You
saying like right here?
Yeah, but their person is listed there, so that wouldn't work. Yeah. But that's going to be useful.
Doubled it up too, actually.
Yeah. And I'm going to have to try that now in my rule set to see if dragging it to the character sheet works.
Yeah, that's interesting. Never tried it. Never thought to do it.
Thank you.
Yep.
This has been very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah, we are. I'm over on the time I thought we were going to be ended, and I did cover everything I had on my schedule. So at this time, before I stop the recording, do we have any questions? And then I'll end the recording, and we could ask whatever you've been holding on to then. Any questions for the recording, guys? Okay. If we don't have any questions, then I'm going to go ahead and end this recording. Thank you all for watching and sticking around. The Fantasy Grounds Academy appreciates your time, and we hope to see you again in the future.
Thank you, Greg.
Yep.
Thank you.